So, Lo, you're one of the internet's go-to wellness queens. What does a typical day in your life look like right now?
So I work full time as the founder CEO of Love Wellness. And so, you know, I'm actually going to work to help build and support a wellness business every day. And so it's always very much top of mind for me. It's kind of like I can't escape it. But in a really interesting way, I have gotten really good at balancing my life, my work life, my social life. And it's in that balance that I find I'm able to kind of be a lot of things for a lot of different people, whether it's, somebody on social who's like sharing wellness tips or, my workout for the day or what I'm eating, and at the office doing, back to back meetings all day long. And also, you can't forget about yourself, right?
Hmm.
Taking care of yourself is a big part of that as well. I'm like a very big practitioner of naps, taking baths, and truly like taking time for myself.
So,
But
like, when you wake up, are you up at like 7 and then you go to your own workout class?
no, God, no. I don't wake up at 7. That's absolutely crazy. I don't have children. And so I like some parts of me wish that I did, and other parts of me are like, wow, I can wake up at like 8:30 and like it's totally fine. I actually like don't have an alarm. I just wake up in the morning, and if I exercise, it's frequently in the morning. I'll do the class by Taryn Toomey, or something kind of like that. I've actually gotten into weightlifting recently, and I'm doing this strength training program on Obey. But by mornings, I take it pretty easy. I like purposefully take it easy. I wake up when I want to. I exercise if I want to, but mostly I'm just up in the morning and heading into the office. And walking has actually become one of my like main forms of exercise. I have an under desk treadmill at the office, and I can bust out 8 or 9 miles in a day.
Wait, I have always wondered about these. How do you type and walk?
It's not hard. It's just not hard.
I
I
love
have
this.
I have a desk that goes up and down, obviously. What is that called? A standing desk.
Yeah.
And it just it has it just has never been a challenge for me. In fact, like my brain works really well when I'm walking.
Well,
It's awesome.
I'm so excited and honestly inspired to hear about your balanced life. I'm not sure I'm quite there. But I know that you weren't always either, because before 2016, at some point, you started feeling off, which actually inspired Love Wellness. When did you start feeling like something wasn't right?
I think it started to become apparent in 2013, 2014. It was a couple years after I had moved to New York, and I started to experience real anxiety for the first time. Not stress driven anxiety, or not stress, right? Because stress and anxiety are different things. I started to experience actual anxiety. It was like palpable, felt like adrenaline from the moment that I would wake up in the morning. And it got worse over time. And then, like, depression was one of the symptoms that got added, which is very common, right? If you're anxious and you don't feel in control, like, of course, it's very easy to become depressed as well. And then I started to get UTIs, and then I started to get yeast infections. And I had all of these like low grade mystery symptoms that I couldn't quite connect to any one thing. And I started going to the doctor, all kinds of doctors. And ultimately, it took me 18 months for one doctor to get to like a piece of a root cause. And one of those things that was discovered was that I had really severe vitamin deficiencies. And it was like the first tangible piece of news that I had gotten in years that kind of gave me a clue as to why I was not feeling like myself. And before those test results came back, I would never think that vitamin deficiencies was the cause of my neurological issues. But it turns out when you're severely deficient in vitamin B and vitamin D, like, what are the symptoms of that? Anxiety and depression. And so I was like, oh. And it was by way of going through that experience, tons of research, tons of doctors, tons of, trips to the drugstore, not just for the depression and anxiety, but also for all of sort of like the personal care issues that I was dealing with as well. I really saw a huge white space opportunity when it comes to women's health, and felt like what I was learning from my doctors at the time, nobody had ever communicated with me about this, that like your gut health is really important, as it relates to brain health, as it relates to vaginal health, that there's like a trickle up and trickle down effect from the gut to the brain and to the vagina. And so I had these vitamin deficiencies, right? And then over time, I became aware that the actual root cause was a gut health issue. Because if you have gut health issues, you're going to have absorption issues. So I was like, oh, it's vitamin deficiencies. No, it was actually a gut health baseline issue.
So it was like 2 steps behind what you thought it was.
Yes, exactly. So at first I was like, it's vitamin deficiencies. Then as time went on and I got educated, I was like,
wow,
it's actually a gut health issue.
I was reading that doctors weren't listening to you at the beginning, which is a too common story that we hear. I was actually watching Bill Maher the other day, and he had somebody on that was saying that they had Lyme disease, and he wrote a book because medicine and the way doctors are trained in America is for the average case. And if you skew it all from the average case, they sometimes don't know how to treat you. And many people's bodies are not necessarily the average case. You were clearly one of those. How did you get doctors to finally listen?
I would also say that the average case is probably like a male body, or traditionally like male body.
Great point.
Because even when it comes to research, like medications from like an approval perspective used to be only tested for the most part on men and then like applied to women's health.
Right.
So for me, it was definitely a struggle. And this is reflective of the experience of a ton of women. I'm certainly not alone in this. I had to see a lot of doctors that told me I was just stressed out and I just needed to like cut back on alcohol and sleep more and get more exercise for a long time, like a really, really long time. It took me 18 months for a doctor to run a simple blood panel to be able to say, oh, you actually have like really terrible vitamin deficiencies. 18 months.
Just for the vitamin? You must have been so frustrated.
Yeah, but I mean, it's normal for, I think, women specifically to go to the doctor and have complaints, and not necessarily be ignored, but that, like myself, be experiencing a lot of low-grade symptoms that one kind of doctor is not necessarily connecting to a different part of the body or a different practice, because a lot of like published research just hasn't gotten that far, or what they've learned in medical school is like very focused on like their area of expertise, right? So I never went to a gynecologist who was like, oh, like you keep getting recurrent yeast infections, you have a gut health problem, right? It really took like trial and error and doing my own research and education over time, and ultimately getting experts involved in my business that did have a much more modern and holistic perspective on wellness and how different parts of our bodies are connected. And so once I realized, to my earlier point, that I had a gut health issue, and that your gut microbiome communicates with your vaginal microbiome, it's called quorum sensing. Your bacteria in your tummy literally talk to your bacteria in your vagina and be like, oh, things are great in the stomach, they should also be great in the vagina. Or, oh my God, we just took an antibiotic and all of the bacteria here are wiped out, so they better get wiped out in the vagina too. Like, the human body is fascinating, but to try to make a complicated picture more simple, I just realized and discovered that the gut is your master microbiome. It is connected to so many different parts of your body. And if you can take care of and heal your gut, you can take care and heal of a lot of these secondary things. So if you heal your gut, most likely your BV is going to go away, or your UTIs, or your depression, because it's all connected.
That is so wild because you always hear that so much of dis-ease, right? Like disease starts in the gut. But I honestly had no idea that the gut was linked to your vaginal health so closely.
Yes, this is actually like everything that my book that's coming out at the end of the year is about. My book comes out on December 27th, and it goes into detail for the very first time. It's like the first book of its kind that is a 5-week women's health plan to help your gut, brain, vaginal health. But it also demystifies the science between the GBV axis, is what we're calling it, the gut, brain, vagina axis, for the first time. So it's the first book to ever come out to explain to women in like a straightforward, easy to understand way that your gut is connected to the brain and the vagina through the endocrine system, the immune system, and your nervous system. So the vagus nerve runs through them all. There's mucus pathways that are connected to all three. And then your bacteria, your microbiome, actually is sort of like the master control of your endocrine system. And it tells different parts of your body, like, hey, make hormones. Hey, send them here. Like, did you know that 95% of your happy hormone, serotonin, are actually created in your gut?
What?
Yeah. It's
No.
fascinating. Yeah.
So, I mean, this kind of sounds like a dumb question, but that's like why when you eat sugar, sometimes you feel a little down the next day.
I mean, maybe, right? Like food sensitivities have this sort of like ongoing chain reaction in the body that creates inflammation. Basically, a food sensitivity can create a gut health issue and start to affect your gut lining. That's what is known as really like leaky gut, right? Your gut lining becomes sort of permeable because of the things going into your body that your body doesn't like, right? And with that permeability, toxins, pathogens, just think of like bad stuff can get through the gut wall lining into your bloodstream and spread throughout the rest of the body. So that's why, like, you may get arthritis as a result of eating an inflammatory food, or you may like mentally not feel like yourself after you have gluten, right? Like brain fog is a big complication for people that have a gluten sensitivity. And it's because, like I said, there's this trickle up and this trickle down effect when you are consuming things that your gut doesn't really like jive with, right?
I mean, it's pretty amazing that you basically had to heal yourself, and Love Wellness, which is your company, was birthed out of your pain, I guess we should call it.
100%, completely.
How long did it take you to really feel like yourself again once you figured out what was going on?
When I first started the company and I first got interested in supplements, because mind you, like I used to think that supplements were like snake oil. I was like, nobody needs supplements, just like go eat healthy food. The reality is 90% of Americans have a vitamin deficiency. And when you start to think about why do we have vitamin deficiencies, it's probably because most of us have a gut health issue because we live in modern times, right? The food that we eat has preservatives in it, has sugar in it. We eat gluten, we drink alcohol, we take antacids, we take antibiotics. All of those things can disrupt your gut microbiome and your gut health, right? So when you like think about just how you exist day to day, like chances are high that like you have a gut health issue and maybe you have a vitamin deficiency issue like 90% of your fellow Americans. But like I used to think supplements were like kind of BS until I realized that, you know, just existing as a human in this country in my body every single day really required me to supplement my body because food is just not what it was. And we're just not the same humans we were 100 years ago.
You know, I'm so happy that you said that because I always felt the same way. I was like, just eat spinach, eat your greens, eat, you know, just eat for your body. And because of this interview, I actually did a panel. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out. But I just asked my doctor for like a regular vitamin panel. She took my blood. It was very easy.
Amazing. I love that for you. Yeah, it's a lot more common now to get blood panels because I think, you know, the education on the internet has really evolved in the past like 6, 7 years. Like when I first started the company, people that wrote about it in the press made fun of me and made fun of the company. It was like, LOL, she's making vaginal health products. And now the narrative has completely shifted because so much science and research has been done on, the gut, women's health at this point to show that, what we originally created is really innovative and valid. And so, now you can more easily go to Google and type in like, teach me about vaginal pH and good information will actually come up, right? Or talk to me about my gut microbiome and good information will come up versus years and years ago when you would be on like the 9th page of Reddit, like in weird forums, getting questionable information from strangers on the internet,
So what were some of I know you mentioned you don't have an alarm, so you're really getting good sleep. What are some of the other changes you made to your routine?
So, for me, I really do try to focus on gut health. And so for me, dietary changes have been one of the most important ways that I have changed my overall health. And that like leads to improvements in each part of your day, right? You wake up happier, you're more rested, you're more focused at work, you actually have energy to exercise, you actually have the motivation and willpower to continue to make good food choices. And so for me, like a diet that is focused on anti-inflammatory foods really to me is kind of the most important baseline thing that I do. Movement is incredibly important, but it's about mindful movement. I don't do like crazy high intensity cardio anymore. Like I have been walking and like doing light weightlifting, and my weight has been better managed in the last year since I like made that change to my like fitness routine than it has been in like 10 or 15 years, right? And then supplementing is really, really important. I think about probiotics as kind of like the new multivitamin. It's obviously important to take a multivitamin every day because we just learned what we just learned about vitamin deficiencies and how many people have them. But I think about probiotics as like the new multivitamin and sort of like the new daily line of defense because of all the things that we are putting in and on our bodies every single day, right? And how many of those things can be so disruptive to your most precious microbiome that is this like living, breathing entity within you that controls so much of your body.
Like if somebody is new to the supplement world, new to Love Wellness, they go to your website, what do you recommend that like the average person take?
Sure. So we like to start with gut health, right? You can sort of go through like a self check, right? Like, do I have like mood or concentration issues? Do I have poop problems? Do I have vaginal or urinary tract issues? And those are like the 3 like main categories that we really focus on from a product perspective at the company. And if you answer yes to any of those questions, chances are high that like you could do some work on your gut health as kind of like the first point of entry. So we have a great probiotic. It's called Gut Feelings Probiotics. And that formula is actually a prebiotic probiotic combination.
Oh, cool.
But prebiotics is just a fancy term for fiber.
Really?
Yeah, fiber is just a food. Yeah, and probiotics is just a fancy term for live bacteria.
Yeah.
So a pre-probiotic formula is a great formula because it basically provides the live bacteria within a little capsule with a food source. So it kind of is like the gasoline to like keep them going, right? As they like sit on the shelf at Target and wait for you to buy them, right? Because ultimately you want your bacteria once it's in your body to go through its life cycle. So you want it actually to die and ferment and become a postbiotic because postbiotics play a role in gut health as well. It helps support your gut wall lining and it helps with immunity, can help with weight management. So you want your bacteria to kind of guaranteed make it through the life cycle. So I definitely recommend any probiotic formula for your gut be that like pre-probiotic approach. And a ton of brands make good probiotics that like match that criteria these days. But Gut Feelings is a great place to start. And then I always recommend taking a daily fiber supplement. Like fiber is so important. Detoxing the body via the natural way every day is so important. So like I am all about increasing fiber for everybody. And then there's a lot of like very straightforward products that we make, like Bye Bloat, which is like if you have pizza and creates indigestion or water weight, Bye Bloat is like a great go-to. We have our pH balancing cleanser, which is for personal care, but it really allows you to practice safe personal hygiene because its ingredient profile supports the vaginal microbiome versus a lot of old school legacy brands, personal hygiene products that are full of like fragrance or like parabens. Those things are proven to kill good bacteria and disrupt the vaginal microbiome, right? So it's about practicing personal hygiene in a way that like is safe and effective for that part of the body.
It's so funny. I think I did like a toxin detox of all the products like years ago. And so many people dislike when I tell them to get rid of their fragrances. Like that is the number one thing. And people really hold on to their fragrances, but they're awful.
They're so bad. They're so bad for you. And regardless of the product, whether it's actual like perfume or whether it's lotion for your body or a personal care cleanser, the FDA does not require the ingredients that go into a fragrance to be listed on labels. And to create a single fragrance, there could be 100 ingredients in a product to create a single fragrance note. And most of them are synthetic. And even the ones that are not synthetic are still not great for you.
They're horrible. Like chuck them out the window.
Yeah, 100%. You are absolutely preaching to the choir on that.
So we were all first introduced to you on the Hills. And as I was preparing for this interview, I was like, I don't want to ask her about that show as much because I know everybody must.
Oh, it's okay.
But, well, I was wondering when you started your company if you felt like that helped you or hindered you.
It absolutely helped me. You know, for a long time, I was a little bit down on the entire experience, really before I launched Love Wellness, because it was emotionally challenging, right? I was a kid. You're thrust into the public spotlight as the internet is exploding and online bullying is first a thing. And you question yourself, right? Everybody on the internet like says you're fat and ugly and stupid. Like, of course, you're going to internalize some of that stuff and have it you will question your self-worth and value, right? So for a long time, I was kind of down on the experience because I just thought, like, this is really challenging for me to have people know who I am when I go out in public, you know, and like sometimes be nice to my face, but behind my back,
right,
be saying stuff that like isn't very kind. So I was down on it, and I had to go through a lot of like healing and therapy and really growing up to get to a place where I understood that this has given me an invaluable platform that is worth so much, and that my experience is actually such a privileged experience to be able to communicate with so many people. Social media has democratized the entertainment industry because every individual has their own platform, right? Like they can say whatever they want out into the void.
right.
It went from being like a challenging experience to one that has become invaluable to me, because how would I have built this business without being on that show, right? My education on the subject matter could still be the same. My interest in the topic could still be the same, but my ability to communicate to an audience in those early days and get my business off the ground would not have existed. And so I'm so grateful that ultimately I did have that experience, even though sometimes it made me cry a little bit.
I'm so sorry it made you cry. I can't even imagine at such a young age what you dealt with. I was so fascinated when I was reading that you said you weren't really willing to be vulnerable. And so you actually asked to be sort of a secondary character. So even then, at the very beginning, you had some hesitation.
I've always had hesitation. And, you know, it's interesting because my mom always had hesitation. And I think so her adult perspective, she kind of shared it with me and was like, you know, we don't know exactly what this is going to be. So like, let's be careful. But I think I was also young, and I was just frankly embarrassed to go on dates on national television. Like, I didn't know how to do that or how to handle myself. Right. And so in a lot of ways, that request to sort of stand to the side, I think helped me in so many unforeseen ways.
Yeah.
Because it did allow me to kind of create my own narrative as I walked away from the show. Right.
I mean, for what it's worth, I always felt like you had so much self-efficacy. Like you were a real girl always. So I think it was nice to see on the show.
Thank you. That's nice. But yeah, I mean, it's like the same thing about like child stars, which I was not one. And, but like.
You were kind of.
Yeah, but like, it's like you have a child star in a role, and it's hard for them to ever break out of that and like come into themselves in a public way as somebody else. Mm-hmm. Like, I just was always fearful of that. Not that I could predict the future, but I did know that like, I'm not always going to be on this show. And so I don't know, maintaining my own autonomy to a certain degree was really important to me from the very beginning.
Yeah. Do you feel, I mean, it seems like it all played out in such a beautiful way. Are you happy and feeling good about where you're at now?
Yes. I think part of that comes from really being willing to like put myself out there though, and take risks. That's one thing that being on TV really taught me how to do. It taught me how to have really thick skin and be really strong in my mind. Right? Because if there's like so many voices saying so many things about you, good, bad, whatever, for years and years and years, you have to be able to find yourself through that. And, as a result, I feel like I'm like iron-willed. And so the things that I apply myself to, I'm really like serious about and, try to follow through on.
Okay, so we are going to do True or False Women's Health Edition.
Okay. Oh God, will I know the answers? Okay, I'm nervous.
No, you definitely will. I don't know the answers, which is why I'm asking. So number 1, vaginas should always have a fruity smell.
Oh, that's false.
Very false.
Vaginal discharge is always because of a yeast infection.
False.
What I eat doesn't impact my sex life.
False.
Should we elaborate?
Yeah, because it goes back to our earlier conversation. Like, what you eat in the gut actually affects your brain, your mood, and your brain is actually a very important organ when it comes to sex. So think about it like that.
Interesting. Number 4, semen does not affect vaginal flora.
False.
Antibiotics cause yeast infections.
Sometimes true.
I can get a yeast infection from scented soaps.
Correct. That's true.
Okay, and then a quick rapid fire about you, Miss Lo Bosworth. A wellness trend that is worth the hype.
Taking a nice, relaxing bath every single day.
I like that one. Your most used emoji.
My most used emoji. Let me pull up my phone. Hold on. I have so many. Actually, right now I'm really into the roller skate emoji.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites, the roller skate emoji.
What are you using it for?
Just anything, absolutely anything. It sort of is, it just means whatever you want it to mean.
Okay, it's like a retro throwback. I'll take it. One implementable health strategy that anyone can do no matter the budget.
Just drink more water.
Your go-to motto.
My go-to motto. One of them is, this is sort of like this could be applied to business and your personal life. Loose lips sink ships.
Ooh, that is a really good one. Your most valued piece of advice from therapy.
What if versus what is. And that is a sort of like anxiety tool that you can implement. What if is anxious thinking. What is thinking that's based in the moment, like, and grounded in reality. So if you're like having a freak out, just start to think to yourself, what is happening right now is that I'm sitting right here doing this podcast with you, Danielle. What if thinking is like, oh my God, is this dinner that I'm going to later with these people I don't know going to go good or bad?
Thank you for sharing that. I've never heard that, and I really, really like that.
Yes. What is versus what if thinking.
Okay, a book that's changed your life, something you think everyone should read.
It's going to be my own book, Love Yourself Well. And it is a book that has helped change my gut, brain, vaginal health and can change yours too in 5 weeks.
What is the smartest decision you've ever made?
Oh, to start my business.
Okay, I always do a pretty smart question. I'm sending these to you. But since we're virtual, just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
What's something you wish people could see about you that they don't see at first glance?
That I'm like much funnier and weirder than I think it seems on social media. I always pose, I'm like not smiling. I'm like, I'm actually like a nice person. Why don't you like smile more on the internet?
You know what's cool though? As an outsider, you actually do come off that way.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Yeah.
We do.
That's nice.
Well, thank you so much. I loved getting to learn from you.